So the mid-season hiatus for Season 6 has come and gone, and we've got halfway through the season so far. With that in mind, I'm doing this in 2 parts, episodes 1 to 13, and then episodes 14 to 26, my thoughts on MLP Season 6. These will be some quick-fire overviews of what I think about each of the episodes, and if anyone wants to hear a full video on one of the episodes, just leave a comment below or on Facebook. Without further ado, let's get into it. The Crystalline. Starlight Glimmer is back, and she's not as annoying as I was expecting. She's actually kind of cute, and she works really well with Spike. I mean, this is great writing for Spike overall as well. On top of that, Sunburst was an interesting character. He didn't get to do too much, but he did show up Twilight and become new best book horse. Sleep Deprived Shining Armor is best Shining Armor. And of course, Cadence and the rest of the Alicorns do a big sweet FA this entire time. We finally get to see Luna and Celestia go do something, but instead of doing something productive like put up a big barrier or shield or whatever to protect the city, they just shoot lasers at clouds. What do they hope to accomplish by shooting lasers at clouds? You might as well try and blow them away with your wings. And of course, getting to the major part of this episode, the thing that most people are thrown off by, Flurry Heart. I actually honestly enjoyed Flurry Heart quite a lot. She can blow holes through everything, she's a face hugger, and she has the ability to destroy ancient powerful relics such as the Crystal Heart. I mean, holy shit, when that happened, I was stunned in awe. I freaking love that. All the wanton destruction from one little baby, it's fantastic. I mean, her design's still a bit but overall, I thought she was fantastic, and kind of am sad that she got her powers nulled or blocked or whatever it was that Sunburst got them to do to her. Overall, a great premiere. I mean, I would put it up as high as most of the premieres. The Gift of Maud Pie. This was actually quite a nice, sweet, just cute little episode. It was nothing grand, but it was still enjoyable. Like, I never really felt like it was particularly dull or boring. I mean, I probably couldn't watch it, like, over and over and over again without getting, distracted by every other thing. But, in an occasional watch, it'll be fantastic. I mean, more Maud Pie is fantastic. I love Maud Pie. She's one of my favorites. Pinky's is best main 6, so any more of her is great as well. Rarity's alright, but she really excelled when it came to dealing with Maud and doing her possession by Pinkie Pie. But what really sold me for this episode was that end bit, dealing with the Swindler, with Maud Pie and her fiery eyes and her clenched jaw. Oh, she could give me that look any day. On your marks. Great, the CMC are back, and immediately Apple Bloom goes ahead and annoys the absolute shit out of me. She proves that she has less character development than any other character that's a mainstay one, and basically, as I said on Brony's Australia forums, in this episode she struggles with the fact that she is more two-dimensional than the art form she is drawn in. Although Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo were fantastic this episode, I absolutely loved everything they did this episode. And I have to give Apple Bloom one honourable mention for that little moment where she confronts her friends in the clubhouse when they open the door and she's sitting there in the dark. Just that little bit of mental snapping, that was fantastic. Gauntlet of Fire. Best Spike episode ever. This was brilliant. Garble came back and he was a stupidly dumb, funny character. Ember was adorable dragon waifu. Spike was on point, just completely on point. He was fantastic. This is a great season for Spike. I didn't care much for anyone else's involvement, like Rarity and Twilight. I didn't give two shits about whatever they did. But the Dragon Lord, whose name currently escapes me, I love him. His design was amazing, and his size. I just want to see more dragons like him in this show. Most of the adult dragons we've seen so far are that red and green variety, and they're kind of boring, and this guy he's immensely huge, and he is powerful looking, he's awesome looking, he doesn't look dull or uninteresting. I would love to see him do more stuff like that with the dragons. No Second Prancers. From one great episode to another, I absolutely adored No Second Prancers. It was so cute. Starlight and Trixie getting along and becoming friends is adorable. I basically ship it. Although this brings me to one of my gripes about the fandom lately, in that everyone who doesn't like Trixie or Starlight basically shitting all over season 6, especially this episode, which is really, really unfair, and at the same time just sort of really annoying. Overall, I love this episode, even though Twilight almost ruined it with her over-the-top reaction to the whole thing. I wouldn't say it's out of character for her, from my perspective, but she definitely got written as blowing this way out of proportion, like way over the top. Newbie Dash. Oh, sweet Jesus. Rainbow Dash episode again, and it was just as annoying as I was expecting it to be. Although I actually sat through it a lot easier than I sat through Tanks for the Memories, which is saying something, because, this episode still did make me pause quite often. I mean, it had its moments, but for the most part it was a case of, if Rainbow had matured enough to sit down and just go, I don't like being called that name, everything would have been solved. The whole thing would have been dealt with a lot easier, and you probably would have had a better moral for it, rather than watching her try and showboat her way into good graces. I figured her character would be above that by now after 6 seasons, but apparently not. Also, the Runderbolts are still shitheads. Absolute shitheads. Except for Soren. A half-swarming tail. Here's a Christmas episode in the middle of the year. Fantastic. Although, despite that slight annoyance that everyone apparently has, this episode was fantastic. I loved it. Absolutely one of my favourite episodes for the season so far, and probably my favourite songs from the season so far. Between Pinkie Pie's Presents and Say Goodbye to the Holiday, just between those two songs, I think I've got like my favourites for this season, which is great because last season had a bunch of songs that I didn't really care for outside of what was given to us in the main attraction. There isn't too much I can actually say about this episode outside of I really enjoyed the story and the songs, because it's a story that everyone's familiar with, and all the other reviewers and whatnot have said it so much better than I can. The Saddle Row Review. Another candidate for best episode of the season. This episode, this had me in stitches the entire way through my first watching of this. I could barely stop laughing while I watched this episode. It was fantastic. I loved all the little jokes, like the second Pinkie Pie, and the little Rarity, Angel and Devil on Pinkie Pie's shoulders. All those little things that were just so funny, and its format was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Also, Sweep 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 is new best song. Applejack's Day Off. This episode is essentially Season 6's version of What About Discord, but without all the annoyingness of not knowing the inside joke that Discord and the main 6 are all sharing in What About Discord. So it's slightly better than What About Discord. Instead of being given a really annoying concept, but a good lesson with poor execution, we just have a good lesson with poor execution that's just really boring. So yeah, it's boring. It's an Applejack episode. What do you expect to happen? Flutter Brutto. I actually really love Flutter Brutto, but of course everyone seems to love Flutter Brutto. As much as I want to hit Zephyr Breeze with a brick, I can't help but relate to him in a way, just even if only the smallest amount of relation there. But what makes this episode great is that it Fluttershy's assertiveness. Serious, assertive Fluttershy is best Fluttershy. This is my favourite Fluttershy episode, flat out. The song at the end was a bit, it felt very jarring when it came in, like it didn't flow with the episode and it wasn't that great. But aside from that, this episode was fantastic, and I'm interested to see if we get more Zephyr Breeze in the future. Spice Up Your Life. Okay, so Spice Up Your Life was an episode I was expecting to like, but came out liking a lot less than I was, expecting, so yeah, that sort of sums it up, really. It was a disappointment in that it didn't hit my expectations, but at the same time, it was entertaining enough that I didn't dislike the episode. Rarity, though, was my biggest gripe with this episode. Just flat out goes against all of the stuff she did in Season 5 of Canterlot Boutique, and just screws over so much stuff. She felt out of character, almost. I would say. Even flat out, she probably was just out of character. I mean, I get she understands like the conformity of the other restaurants, but I figured by now she would be a bit better than that. Stranger Than Fan Fiction. Quibble Pants and Rainbow Dash shipping. So much shipping. I can't help but want to ship them. I mean, did you see that opening sequence when they met? That was fantastic. That was brilliant. That's the hardest shipping I've ever done. The shipping aside, this episode was quite amusing, even though Quibble Pants did get quite annoying at points, especially around the middle of the episode when they get captured. But outside of that, everything was brilliant. Good to see Daring Do again, although she had very minimal screen time, and another one of her rivals or villains or whatever you want to call them, antagonists. I do hope we get to see more Quibble Pants, even if we don't get to see more Daring Do or anything like that. More Quibble Pants would be quite amusing to come across. No, that's it. That's my Season 6 thoughts, quickfire version. As I said at the start, if you want to hear a full video's worth of thoughts on an episode, just drop it in the comments or on Facebook, and I'll see what I can do. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's probably not going to be my greatest video on like what I thought about the show, because I'm doing this really kind of rushed, because trying to condense my thoughts into such a short format, it's a lot harder than it sounds like, trust me. Or at least it is for someone who's only just starting out this whole YouTube thing like myself. But it's all done now. I'll see you again at the end of Season 6. Until then, cheers.